You know, whenever you come to the end of something, it brings up a lot of emotion, a lot of self-examination, and it kind of makes you want to put everything together, which is very hard to do. Things don't always come together. They just are what they are. We get a false idea of things from movies and novels. Stories have a way of winding up with everything, or everything we want, in some kind of neat package that gives closure. And closure is, in a sense, a false idea. It puts a lot of weight on endings, getting somewhere, finding out what really happened, getting the truth, knowing it, in the best of worlds, that everything turns out okay, unless you're Chekhov and then nothing turns out okay, it just stays as it was. But mostly you want to see consequence. Actions have consequence, and you want to watch how that worked. And you want to see redemption. You want to see how people find a way to make it okay, to make it whole. Most lives don't read like that. Most lives are not good stories. Most people leave as confused in the end as they were in the beginning and throughout the whole ride. The problem with storytelling is that it creates false expectation. And the truly best stories end with a kind of profound understanding, which is not unlike what we try to teach in this class. It has something to do with you discover you are and have always been okay. That you return to equilibrium, you return to balance, you return to harmony. I mean, that really is the nature of a story. You have harmony at the beginning, something throws it into disequilibrium, destroys the balance, and you struggle and struggle and struggle and struggle until you finally get a new level of balance, harmony, and equilibrium. And that's the end of the story. But of course it's not the end of the story, because 2 minutes later something's going to come and blow it up again. It just keeps going on like that. And for many people the end doesn't occur at the end, but somewhere in the middle. That's very unsatisfying. I'll tell you what I think is the most important teaching. Excuse me. It's 2 points, and I learned them from Eckhart Tolle, and they were really important to me. I didn't fully understand them at the time, but I knew they were true. One was, you are what you seek. You are already what you're looking for. And 2, nothing that you're looking for is in the future. Which puts an enormous amount of weight on this moment. If it's not in the future, where is it? Well, it's not in the past, I'll tell you that. It's right here. This is it. The thing you're looking for is staring you in the face. Right now it's me. And it's an interesting point that it's me. Because you've put yourself here to hear these words. You've brought yourself to this situation. But a lot of the time what's sitting in front of you is not Bruce. What's sitting in front of you is, you know, the manicurist or the barber, or, you know, your mother, or your, you know, the brother you can't stand, or whatever it is sitting in front of you. and the thing you're looking for is right there. How is that possible? How can it be that the very thing you're seeking is sitting right there? Well, there is a word in spiritual practice called totality. It's also called the absolute. And I've had a hard time understanding the absolute until recently, when I realized this is totality. This is the absolute. This is all there is. You are always, always in the presence of all there is. Now, clearly, through your mind, you are not able to be in outer space in some cosmic universe billions of years from here, but they're present even in this. Every past tense experience, every teaching in the universe is present now. You may have to access it through the internet or a library, if you use old-time patterns. Everything that ever was is, and is now. There is no way to process all that is with your mind. Not possible. The mind is a filter, but you cannot know everything with the mind in an intellectual, dissecting, exploratory, acquiring mode. It doesn't have the mechanism for that. But if you let go of your mind, which is what we do in meditation, you just let it go and sit still, the fullness of the absolute, of totality, will simply express itself. You get a taste of it when you sit really still and you really let go. And I call this moment where you enter the portal. You go, there's no mind there, there's no interpretation, there's no analysis going on. It's just being, it's presence. And you can tell that it has no boundary. It has no boundary. It is infinite, and it is all there in that moment. None of you is separate from that in truth. The only thing that gets in the way of your knowing this is this thing we're programmed to do, which is to create a body of experience and a literal body and a mind of interpretive capacity that analyzes the universe as we experience it and see it from very close distance. And that is called us. This sense that we have of us starts very early in your life, and it starts putting it all together. And this experience links up with this experience and that with that, and your parents give you a name, and you begin to identify with that name, and you begin to identify with this body that works or doesn't work in various ways, and your friends tell you who you are, and your teachers tell you who you are, and you get a B+ on this paper and a D- on that paper, and suddenly you're brilliant here and not brilliant there, and then the world comes in and people reject you and people accept you, and the story gets bigger and bigger, and you see everything through that story, through the lens of that story, and that story becomes all-consuming to the point where you say, I can't handle all this, it's too big, it's too upsetting, it's too complicated, it's whatever it is, it gets really overwhelming for everybody. Everybody. And then you look for, how can I get out of this? How can I get some peace in the middle of this vast mechanism of my story? And you know, I talk about the same stuff every week. There are certain things the world presents you that will allow you to step back. You guys have come upon this thing called meditation. Meditation is ages old. It's been going on since the beginning of mankind. And what do people do? They sit still. They get very quiet. They say, I can't live in the noise. They get exploratory in a way. They start to go inward. And they start to discover these things we've always talked about in this class, these energy centers inside your body that are very tangible. And the wonderful thing about them is as you get into these spaces in your head, your various chakras, you discover that they are very welcoming. They are places of retreat, places that refresh you in the way that sleep refreshes you, although you don't have to sleep to go there. You just go into these spaces and you go, and if you sit there long enough, the portal opens and it pulls you into the infinite. And you just sit there. You go, You feel like you're home with yourself. Some people never want to leave that, but somehow or another the world pulls you back out. And what you have to start to begin to understand is this is your retreat and this is your work. And they work together. You can't spend your whole life here. And you really can't live in a state of contentment out there. It's too rough and ready. It's too much tumult going on all the time. So you need a kind of simple balance. Sit quietly, touch the infinite, return to the world, and bring a little bit of that stillness back into play in your day. If you keep practicing that, you will build this extraordinary muscle of how to live. The ability to let go, the ability to engage. Let go, engage. And it's a wonderful way to live. It's really the way to live. For some people, and I've talked about this for the last several years, this is kind of the 3rd year anniversary of my awakening this last week, something remarkable happens. The seeker who's looking for this deep contentment, who keeps going into these spaces of the portal and feeling the infinite, the person seeking that just goes, it falls away. It just goes. And then the dividing line between you and reality, you and the universe, disappears. And there's just this one thing, and it's called totality, the absolute. And there's no you in the absolute, there is only the absolute, and you are that. You are whatever is. And that's the truth. Every one of you is that at this moment, and every one of you has a story saying, but. How can that be true? I'm unhappy, I have this issue, I've got that, somebody did this to me, somebody's dying, somebody stole my stuff. You have your story, and that story just keeps inserting itself and separating you from the simple truth that you are even that story. You're the whole of it. You're all there is. And what starts to happen when you discover that you are the totality is a whole other kind of work. And I've talked about this before. I call everything spiritual practice up until that moment, and then spiritual work. Spiritual work is finding a way to, as Rudy said, surrender to or say yes to totality. Say yes to the mess of your life. Say yes to all the frustration and disappointment and all the stuff that doesn't work. Say yes as a general attitude to life. And what you start to discover, really, and again, you've heard all of this before, so nothing I'm saying is new, but as Rudy would say to me, you drink that glass of water and totality of that water going down into your throat, filling your system with refreshment, is so amazing, so vast, so full of blessing, really, that you start to understand that the joy of life is not in what you attain, it's in what you are. Moment to moment to moment. Attainment is a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. But it doesn't define you. It just tells more of your story. Once your story falls away, what does it mean to, be the most famous person in the world? It's just part of being. The story is the source of all your suffering. Truly. Your story, your personal story, which you are so wildly addicted to and will fight to the death to keep going, is why you're so miserable. And we all kind of know that. Buddha said it a long time ago. We are caught in the dilemma of separateness, thinking we are separate from everything else. And that separation is very scary. How can you be separate from existence? How can you be separate from God? How can you be separate from all of that? How can you feel that you are somehow existing independently and being judged for how you're living even? All I can tell you is the judgment is you judging you. The separation is you buying into the story. And that somehow or another you have worked yourself into this particular room and space where someone is sitting and telling you you're not that. You are not that. And again, if I had the power to take your story and pull it to shreds, I would do it right now. Every one of your stories. And half of you would hate me for it, and half of you would be totally grateful. I don't have that power. All I can tell you is that power is not a power that your story mind, your seeking mind has. It's, as it was said to me once, it is not you that awakens, it is not the dreamer that awakens, it is that which is dreaming you that awakens. The thing that is unconsciously, it's not really unconscious, but it is totally caught up in your story, suddenly goes, whoa, I am not that. I am not that story. And then suddenly it just takes you and it goes, and for some people, that loss takes years to accommodate. Eckhart Tolle talks about sitting on a park bench for 2 years. My story, I've described this a number of times, was kind of eradicated on some level during an LSD trip in the 60s, and then it took me almost 50 years to accommodate what took place at that moment, which pushed me to India, traveling around the world looking for teachers, brought me to Rudy, brought me to this moment. It's been a long process, but Rudy told me day one, it's a life's work. And every one of you has to know it's a life's work. If you're in this for the long run, you'll get there. If you're in it for immediate satisfaction, well, you'll be looking into somebody else's practice sooner than later. But you guys have been around a long time. We're celebrating 15 years here. And this is coming to an end today. On some level, we are not going to be gathering in this room, in this space, in this very lovely environment. For the last few months, I have gone through an incredible kind of mourning about leaving. And we went back to LA 2 weeks ago. And something happened to me there that happens to me every time I go there, which is the minute I get back to LA, I totally forget New York. Completely, it's gone. Not that you guys are gone, but it's gone. And I don't think about it, I don't care about it, it has no weight, it has no emotional pull at all. I'm not, because I'm in LA. And that's where I am. And it's a really interesting phenomenon, because you are where you are. And the mind can create the story of pulling you back to where you were, and you can create as much misery and unhappiness as you want. But why? Anyway, we got back here the other day, and I was like, the morning is over. It doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. I don't feel any emotion about leaving this place, which is a shock, really. It's just, this is what is. This is what's happening. You move. I'm actually going into a period of absolute unknowing. I have no clue to what's going on next, because we're going to Seattle. I don't know hardly anybody in Seattle. You know, my story will follow me only if I try to present it to people. Otherwise, it's just me and my family, my son and my daughter-in-law and my little grandchild and another one coming. That's the story, you know. And luckily, I have my wife joining me in this journey. And what comes when the story falls away, this is really interesting, is you'll see what's left standing. What's left standing when the story is gone? Not a lot. Not a lot. But Blanche and I are left standing. We're in it together for as long as we're here. That's really meaningful. It's really important. You guys are really living contents, if you will, of my heart. You have no idea how much I love each and every one of you. You have no idea how big it is. That doesn't go away, because it's not Bruce loving you. You have to understand, I know it looks like Bruce. You know, it's got his belly, it's got his balding head, it's got all that stuff. But really, what sits here, what's sitting here, and really what's sitting there, although you don't all know it, is presence. I see you with your story, but I also see you without your story. My whole idea is get rid of that story. Go to the core, go to the chakra system, go to the essence of each person, and the essence of each of you is love. It's just love. Beautiful, exquisite, joyful love. And love is a quality of presence. It's not the only quality, because there's a lot of other stuff in presence. I don't want to break this down too much. You are the totality. The totality incorporates love and hate, good and bad, joy and suffering, pain and suffering, whatever. It has everything. The totality is everything. When you discover you are the totality, you will be a container for or an emanation of everything. True spiritual practice is saying yes to that. If you're here looking to become just light, wisdom, joy, and love, you will fail. Because you will become all of that, and you will become everything else. You will become all there is. And when you become all there is, and you're told to leave some of that behind, you realize it's not possible to leave anything behind. You just shift into a new perspective on all there is. And you'll be doing that forever, really forever. I can't articulate ultimate truth as in the future tense. I have no concept of it in the future tense, but I have absolute conscious awareness of it in this present tense. And right now, ultimate truth is sitting in front of me. Each of you embody ultimate truth. You need to know that. You embody it, and you are it. Everything I am seeking in life is sitting in front of me. You bring it with you every time you come here. You bring it perhaps imperfectly, because you all seem to feel there's work to be done to get past something. But that's part of the perfection of it. That's part of how it works. All I know is I. And when I say I don't mean Bruce, because I don't even relate exactly to that. I love you. That's all I do. And I don't do it blindly. I know each of you is as imperfect as Bruce is. It gets coughs and colds and all this stuff. But it, at its core, loves. And at your core, you do the same thing. If you're not doing it, it's because you are congested, if you will, with your story, with your imperfection, with your self-judgment, with your longing for something in the future, with your sense that if I do this and do this and do this, I'll get there. All I can tell you is, if you do this and do this and do this, you won't get anywhere other than where you already are. It won't be, I don't mean that in the past tense, but you'll always be here. Where else can you ever be but here? And that here will always be imperfect. And the minute you understand that it's imperfect, the minute you give up a need to be enlightened or awakened, the minute you just go, okay, okay, that's it. That's it. I know it sounds ridiculous, but that's it. This is the very absolute, ultimate, mystical truth of being, and you are at the core of it, the source of it. You are all there is. You are God itself. And not to know that is why we suffer. Not to walk around going, oh. And when you become God itself, you don't become, hey, God itself. You become so humble and so simple and so open and so loving and so available and so none of those things. Because I can wake up in the morning miserable, just like anybody else. I can stub my toe and curse the universe. You know, you do all that stuff. That's how it works. And then you go, oh, that's how it works. You are the insanity of all this, the chaos of all this, and the perfection of all this, all at the same time. There's no duality. It's all one thing. It's one incredible soup of being. And all I want to do is help you to know that. And I can't do more than what I'm doing right now. I can just talk it out. I can energetically look at you, really, really love you, try to get past the obstruction in you, the thing that's saying, no, 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 this can't be it, this can't be it. Because that's what everybody says. How can I feel like shit and be told this is it? That's not satisfying. It's really not satisfying. But the minute you go, oh, that's it, it's a revolutionary change inside. You stop fighting it and you go, God is all of this. The whole thing is one thing. It's just one thing. And you're not separate from it. And when you're separate, it impacts you. But when you're not separate, nothing impacts. There's no collision. It's just, oh. And then you just get wide-eyed. And you go, oh. That's all there is. And, you know, I'm leaving, so you won't have Sunday mornings. What I really recommend is you have really good brunches for the next few months or weeks. Enjoy your Sundays, read the New York Times, go for a walk. Forget this idea of meditation. Forget that you have to get somewhere or that you need to do something. Forget that if you come here you might become enlightened. Forget that you have to do something to get anything. Just wake up and enjoy it. You know, enjoy the day. Enjoy your life as best you can. And then if you feel drawn to sitting in meditation, do it. It's a good thing. You know, it's like an aspirin. You know, you sit down and you go, oh, it takes away some of the pain, and it's really a good thing. You don't want to go into months of meditation because that's like a trance. That's not, it's like letting go of the reality of the world withdrawing into this little cocoon of you. You want to be expanded into the totality of you. So Sunday mornings now are free. They're free. You don't have to get in your car and drive however long it is to come here. If there are other people who are teaching that you wish to go sit with, that's great. You have wonderful teachers present in this room. You know, I mean, hey, Michael, Wade, Julia, I mean, who am I forgetting? Marty? I mean, there's all these people who are available to go to. I have outside a list of Per Johansson from Oslo is coming into town to give a talk at Tibet House in a month. I'm going to give a talk there for a few minutes. He's a teacher. Bruce Denny is a teacher in New York City who's really wonderful. You guys have some of those addresses. There are places to go to continue sitting. And do. If you feel drawn to it, do. But I will tell you, if you do all of this thinking, if I do this for the rest of my life and sit with somebody, it will happen, you're in the wrong place. Because it has nothing to do with sitting. It has nothing to do with sitting with them. It has to do with knowing you're already that. Then you can sit with anybody. It really won't matter who. The great thing about sitting with people, is what's called Sangha, gathering in a room of other people who are part of that journey, who support, reflect, and expand your own sense of self. That's the beauty of it. You know, whenever I sit and talk to people, you know, we can talk about the weather in the last movie we saw and the new TV show, but when I talk to people about truth, wow, that's pure joy for me. It's all I care about. And I, you know, I've become, you all know this, I'm very earnest. And so I really don't hesitate to tell people that I love them, that I'm grateful for them, that I am enriched by their presence. And we had a party yesterday with all of our neighbors, and I said this to everybody, and they really wanted to hear it. They don't understand my spiritual life, but they were grateful to be told that they were appreciated and loved. As are anybody in the world. You have the right to do that to all of the people you know, even if they're not part of your spiritual group. But if you're in a spiritual group, you get to hug them, you get to talk about this stuff, you get to sit in a room full of presence that absolutely reflects the beauty of your soul. So I encourage you to follow your soul, follow what it talks to you about, listen to what it has to say. But all I can tell you is, when Rudy died, I knew I was on this journey by myself, and his death freed me from having to feel I had to go and get it from anybody else. I mean, I kept doing that, but it's been an unfolding journey. Each of you, you're on your own. You are completely on your own. And the great thing about being on your own is when you discover who you are, there's no problem with that. The great thing about being on your own is it helps you awaken. Because nobody's going to do it for you, and there's nowhere to go to get it, and you realize everything I've been talking about since I turned this camera on. This is all there is. There's nothing in the future. Nobody's going to deliver it to you. You are the mechanism through which it presents itself. You do need a teacher for certain stages of this journey. Well, you've had one. You've all had a teacher for certain stages. Some of you for a few weeks, some of you for a good many years. It doesn't matter. If you want, you know, for whatever reason, all of these talks are available online. You can always go back and just push a button and listen to a talk again, and I think it will speak to you. And also, I'm not the only guy around. I don't even mean in terms of our group. There's so many good teachers out there right now. There's so many people speaking all of this. It doesn't matter where you get it from. Find the one that speaks to you. Listen to the world. Let people help you through this. So many people. Just pick up a book of Rumi's poems. You go back 1,000 years or 800 years and read his poems. They speak to this moment. You have so many guides, so many possibilities. But let me also say, as long as I'm around, each and every one of you is welcome wherever I am. I luckily have homes with bedrooms, and you are welcome to come and and visit. I'm not putting you up for the rest of your life, but you really do have a place. You can always come a few days, a week, whatever, and just be with us. And I will do my best on whatever occasion I can to come back this way and say, I'll write a note to everybody and say, hey, I'm back. If you have the time and you want to sit together in this moment, we will do it. And that'll be great. That's, it'll play itself out the way it's supposed to play itself out. But you're in good hands with the other teachers. You're in good hands, period. You're in your own hands, and you can't do better than that. So again, I love you all deeply.
We love you.
Thank you. And I truly, truly am grateful for your having made this last 15 years so exceptional. Something real has taken place during this time. The journey has come to a place, I won't call it a fulfillment and ending exactly, because it's still ongoing, but it definitely amped up. And it amped up into a place of absolute truth and reality as we know it. I don't mean it as absolute in the sense that I can tell you all the truth, but it is absolute in that it is a full expression of the truth that is emanating at this moment. That's what we've come to, and we've all been part of it. It's locked inside you, it's in all of us. Thank you for making it happen, because it would not have happened without each of you. So, I'm going to bring this to an end. Two things. If it's all right with you, I'm going to snap a picture of you guys so I can keep you around on my bulletin board. And Tony, I was told you might want to take a picture. I don't know do you have a camera with you?
Yes, I do.
Okay. If you guys are open to having your picture taken, that's fine. I don't want to throw you into an awkward situation of leaving the room if you don't want your picture on my bulletin board. I can also, if you want, send it to you so you can all have a picture of everybody in the class, and you'll have a sense of all of us. And that, so maybe that's what we'll do. And then try not to live in memory. Keep it real, keep it in the moment, and have a wonderful life. And don't feel in any way ever disconnected from this, because you cannot and will not ever be disconnected. I know that because Rudy died and there's no disconnect at all, and it's been almost 50 years. I know there's no disconnect. So we're in this together for the long run, probably forever. Enjoy.